Hello, my name is Jennifer Bess. I'm very excited to be able to virtually be here today to talk with you about national fellowships. I do think that support for grad students is something that we're really interested in doing more of, but I'll tell you a little bit about what we are doing. So we are the Office of Fellowships and Scholar Programs. We've been around since 1994. We are a staff of 6, actually. We have 4 National Fellowship Advisors in our office, and we are located in Decisor on the 3rd floor, which is on the horseshoe between McCutcheon House and Osborne. So we actually have 2 missions in our office. We support undergraduate top scholars. You don't have to worry about that, but primarily I work with advising on national fellowships. So that's what we're going to talk about today. One thing I do like to highlight is that this office has existed since 1994, which is actually pretty early in the world of national fellowship advising. And I like to highlight that because I think it's a testament to the value that the university places on the application process, certainly winning these awards, but just understands that this is important and something worthwhile supporting. So you can see on the screen there, since 1994, we've had 845 national awards that have totaled over $26.5 million. Last year, we had 58 winners, went over $2.2 million, and I looked through the records for you, and there were 7 grad students in that winners list. There probably were more that we may not have known of or worked with, but those are the ones that we have. So you'll see a few of them as we go on in this presentation. Oops, I need to push down and not up. There we go. So I like to start and just sort of give you a brief overview of what a national fellowship is. Fellowship and scholarship is often used interchangeably. It just depends on the funding body, but actually at the graduate level, they tend to be called fellowships. We emphasize that these are awards that are based on merit. This is money from outside the university. This is not USC funding. And so you're actually competing at the national level, and we call them portable financial awards. They give you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you're able to do. And so that's one of the reasons why we encourage you to look at them. The reason that I have up there available for graduate study across almost all disciplines is that, first of all, a lot of the grad fellowships are really discipline specific, but secondly, there are some disciplines that probably have less available than others. Sometimes the professional paths have fewer options. Don't ask me why. I think everyone should have lots of opportunities for fellowships, and I will highlight some that are really open to students from all backgrounds. So don't let that stop you from investigating. Why you should apply. I do think that probably as grad students, you appreciate the need for funding. And so that's the last thing on the list here. But you certainly need to, in your professional career as an academic, you clearly need to be able to talk about what it is that you do and you study. And so applying for national fellowships can give you experience in doing that. Having people outside your own area of expertise read through your materials and give you feedback can be really beneficial in helping you find the right balance between being technical and being really broad in terms of explaining the importance of your work. As you know, because you successfully applied and come to grad school, developing relationships with faculty are key to getting letters of recommendation. And so the more you apply for, the more letters of recommendation you need, but the better chance you have to build those relationships with faculty. And everyone wants you to succeed and wants you to be successful. And so those are very supportive relationships. I also feel like I'm talking extremely quickly, and I will slow down. You can develop strong interview skills. So not every fellowship requires an interview, luckily, but some do. And so that's part of what we can help provide in our office is some of that practice. And then generally speaking, you will be applying for a lot of things in your life, whether that be an internship or a job or another fellowship. So getting comfortable with speaking about yourself, highlighting your talents and your skills, and maintaining these connections are all things that we talk a lot about in terms of the benefit of the process of applying for national fellowships. And so then the final thing there is that you want funding for tuition, travel, research, or other things, because ultimately, yes, we really hope that you win a national fellowship, and that's what the financial award component of it is. So what does an application look like usually? 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some kind of personal statement, because these fellowship awards, right? I mean, they're merit-based, but they're given to you, the person. Most of these are not based on funding specifically your research, right? They're looking at you as a potential researcher and saying, yes, we think you're going to do interesting things, and so we're going to fund you. It's not, oh, that project looks super interesting. The project is what we want to fund, right? So they really do want to get a sense of who you are. And so those personal statements can be tricky to write, and you've got to really know who your audience is in any particular case. So be really aware of that. And then because you're at the graduate level, usually fellowships are going to be asking you for some kind of research statement or proposal, but again, to sort of demonstrate that you understand what a research proposal looks like, what's able to be accomplished in a certain amount of time or within the scope of the fellowship. I also will just mention here, I'm not sure that I do it a whole lot later. I mean, there are fellowships available at different stages along your academic route as a grad student, especially if you're pursuing a PhD. I mean, there's pre-dissertation level grants, there are dissertation level grants, and there are postdocs. And so what you're presenting in each of those levels varies as well. Letters of recommendation are always going to be a component, some sort of CV or resume, usually a CV, and then transcripts from all the institutions that you've attended, so not just your current one. We'd like to encourage you and show you some pictures of students, grad students from USC who have won national fellowship. So we have Allison, Angela, and Joel from last year. I'll talk a little bit more about what each of these specific grants is in a little bit, but a lot of the awards that we work with students on, with grad students on, are awards that have some overlap with our undergrads, because we actually tend to have a lot more undergrads coming through our office. So Fulbright, Critical Language Scholarship, Boren, NSF, those are all things that both undergrads and grads can apply for. But we certainly have a lot of success with our grad students with those competitions. And again, I'll tell you what each of those is as we proceed through. For graduate students especially, there are discipline-specific awards. So one of the things that we have on our website is a searchable database. It's got about 200 different awards. A few of these are going to be on there, but it is going to take a little bit of work on your part, usually, to dig into what those discipline-specific awards are. We're not the experts in them. We are more than happy to help you with the application process of anything that you find. But so here are 4 examples of relatively discipline-specific awards. David Oliver won the AFPE Pre-Doctoral Fellowship, so that supported his pharmacy studies. Stacy Olden won this National Board Certified Counselors Minority Fellowship, so that was to help her in her process towards becoming a counselor. Sam won the NSF DDRIG, the Doctoral Dissertation Research, I always forget it, Research Improvement Grant. Those are NSF obviously is the overall funding body of that, but those are discipline specific awards. So she won it in, I think, biological anthropology. But so not every discipline has those available, but many do. And then Marlene Johnson Moore was named a presidential management fellow last year, coming out of the law school. So kind of a mixture of backgrounds and relatively specific awards that are won there. And so these are all students that we know in our office. So some of the things that we offer you to support in this process, one of the key things I enjoy most is these reflective conversations where we get to meet one-on-one with you and kind of talk through who you are and what you're interested in, and try and figure out if there are national fellowships that we know of that will fit your interests, and or if there are things that you found that you have questions about that we can help you. But it's really because these are awards given to you as an individual, the more we can get to know you and have those conversations, the better we can advise you overall. We can offer advice on specific competitions, so the ones that we know sort of inside and out, we can give you some USC background insight on, and that's kind of priceless information. I'm not sure, there's so much I think that we feel like we can find online these days, but there's still a little bit of background knowledge that is sort of maintained in people's heads these days, and so we look forward to sharing that with you. We're also happy to look at essays and do application review. I would say that at the graduate level, because none of us are going to be in your field, we are certainly not the only people who should be reading those essays, but we can be a helpful set of eyes in terms of helping you see if you've pitched it to the right kind of audience. But we're always going to tell you to go back to your faculty as well for advice on how to write about your subject matter. We just also like to sort of take a look at the application as a whole and make sure that you're being consistent throughout in terms of who you're presenting. So that's something that we're happy to offer. We do try and keep past winning applications on file in our office from students from USC who have won these awards. So if you want to come and look and see what a successful Fulbright application looks like, we have a gigantic binder of those. And that can be something that can either get you kickstarted, but more usually come a little bit later on in the process, where if you get stuck in writing your essay and you want to know how somebody addressed this in the past, we might be able to have that on file for you. We can match you with faculty mentors. Usually you guys are probably pretty set with that at this point in your career, but if there's some connection that you need to be made, we're happy to help with that. And then if you're doing a competition that requires an interview, we're happy to set up practice interviews for you with various faculty from throughout the university. Which brings me to faculty. That's like I planned that slide. So faculty help us. We have a number of scholarship committees for evaluation pieces that have to be done. They help us by mentoring students one-on-one, and they help with the practice interviews. I like to just highlight this because sometimes I think students feel like they're being burdensome on faculty when they ask for help in applying for national fellowships, and that's not really true. You have to approach it appropriately, but faculty really want to help you succeed, and we always survey our faculty who have helped us by the end of the year. In our last survey, we had 100% of the faculty who worked with us found working with students a rewarding experience. So don't think they don't want to do this. They're happy to. So happy that let me show you some pictures of happy people. So we have Dr. Jeff Purcell's working with Jason Green, I'm sorry. Jason Green was a public health student who applied for a Fulbright maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And then Dr. Purcell's is one of our Fulbright faculty advisors. So pretty sure if you apply for a Fulbright, you would meet him and possibly work directly with him. He's in the French department. And then Dr. Mike Matthews is in chemical engineering. So this is him with our 2015 GEM Scholar, Karina. We had 2 more GEM Scholars last year who are graduating seniors. But Dr. Matthews is our GEM advisor, but he also is the chair of our National Science Foundation, the NSF GRFP committee. So that you're eligible for if you are a first or second year grad student only in obviously the sciences. See, they were so happy. One of the best entry points for national fellowships and graduate students is international study. And so I like this little word cloud thing that I made. So these are countries that USC students have been to in the last 3 or 4 years, not exclusively grad students, but definitely including grad students with some form of national fellowship. So you can see there's a pretty broad range. I'm not even sure that everything on that is covered, but just thought a nice little visual would be good. So there are international scholarships for language study. The CLS scholarship, so here we have Justin, who was a CLS scholar last summer to Korea. Justin is a current HESA student. The Critical Language Scholarship, it's a US State Department funded scholarship for intensive language study of one of 14 critical need languages. They included Swahili a couple years ago, so that's pretty cool. But it's your typical ones like Arabic, Russian, Chinese, but you can also do things like Hindi or Punjabi or Persian or Korean. Depending on which language, there may be some minimum prerequisite level, but many of them, you don't have to have any background or knowledge of the language yet. And that's a fully funded intensive summer program. To be eligible for that, you simply have to be a currently enrolled student. So any of you could be doing that next summer. And then Benda, so Benda is a multiple successful fellowship winner. She is a PhD student in education. She was a 2016 Boren Scholar. So Boren, also State Department funded, also critical language focused. She actually did one of their African flagship language initiative programs, which enabled her to study in Senegal for a year, both using French and Wolof. And then while she was there, she actually managed to pull together a Fulbright application and was selected to be a Fulbright Public Policy Fellow currently. I think she just left actually on the Ivory Coast or in the Ivory Coast. So she's been able to sort of, I think it's the snowball effect, right? I say start applying to lots of things and you get one and you follow it up with some other ones and keep on moving on. So there are 2 options for you. More scholarships more broadly for international research, teaching, or study that are not necessarily language specific. So the DAAD is an organization, it's a German organization, and they have 10 or 12 different fellowships that students can apply for at various stages with various German requirements. But they do have a graduate grant to do 4 to 6 months of study. If you want to go earn another master's degree in Germany, that's an option with their program. And they also do intensive language courses. If you've already got some German background and you want to get better, that's a summer option for them as well. Fulbright is like my favorite. I'll probably say Fulbright 8 more times in this presentation, but I think Fulbright is really key to consider because It's applicable to students from really any academic background with any kind of interest in international experience. It's U.S. State Department funded. It's for a year abroad. There are 3 basic types. You guys may or may not be interested in the English teaching assistantship component of it, but the other more likely fit for you would be their research or study grant. So most countries would allow you to propose an independent research project for a year. So that's what you see here. You've got Kelly and then Gerard, who are both Fulbright winners to do research. Gerard in philosophy, he went to Germany. And Kelly actually did some of her archaeological anthropology work in Guinea. They basically created the Guinea Fulbright for her. Guinea did not have a Fulbright program until she had been over to visit and they wanted her to come back. And she said, well, you know, if you can do this, if you can sort of get connected with Fulbright, I can apply for that and then go. She did, they did, she got the grant, but then Ebola broke out, and so they didn't send her the first year. But then luckily they got the Ebola under control and she went the next year. So Fulbright is a pretty interesting option. There are also sort of business options. There are some business internships. There are programs to do master's degrees in various countries. So like with most of these, Fulbright does not really have a language level requirement depending on the country that you're going to. Usually they're going to say you need enough language to do the thing that you're proposing to do. So if it's something like it has a novice level requirement, that's actually pretty good because all you have to do is show that you have a plan for getting to novice during the year that you were applying to Fulbright. You don't have to be a novice at the time of application. You'd have to be ready to go a year from then. So Fulbright would be a great option. And then we've got the Rotary Global Grant. So Rotary Global Grant is an interesting one. It is a very relationship focused grant because you are sponsored by a local Rotary club. Rotary International is a large humanitarian organization. And you have to be, it's to fund graduate level coursework in one of their 6 areas of focus. I'll be honest and say that most of our successful applicants have been either graduating seniors or alums who are out in the world, but I don't think there's anything that precludes grad students who want to go and have an international experience somewhere else, take some classes and do some research from applying for that. So if you're interested, I'd be happy to chat more. Their areas of focus tend to be, well, are disease prevention and treatment, child and maternal health, economic and community development, water and sanitation, basic education and literacy, and peace and conflict resolution. So if you fit into any of those 6 areas and you want to do a year of graduate studies abroad, we can chat about that. So Rachel Lunsford on the screen is one of our most recent winners. She'll be going to Cambridge next year actually with that, which is, it's a minimum of $30,000. It's $30,000 to $50,000 is what the Rotary will offer you. Fellowships for postgrad degrees in the US. So here are just 2 of the sort of broad options that you've got. The Ford Foundation, I have the little blurb there about what their mission is. It seeks to increase the diversity of the nation's college and university faculties. And it's offered at 3 different levels. So there's a pre-doctoral, a dissertation, and a postdoctoral. They're looking for students who are from underrepresented minorities or who have really incorporated diversity into their long-term sort of academic and teaching career plan. So either or both of those is an eligible area. We don't get a lot of applicants for that, but it's a pretty interesting application, and for the right person, I think it would be a good fit. The Soros Fellowship for New Americans, this is one that we have a hard time identifying students for actually, because there's no way for us to track if you're a New American, which is fine. They define a New American as someone, you are either currently a US citizen or you have to be a US citizen or green card holder, and neither of your parents can be a US citizen or were a US citizen at the time of your birth. I believe that's how that works. And so that, you have to be under 30, but that is a $90,000 scholarship that you can use for any graduate program that you want. So if you fit that profile, come talk to me, because we really don't get a lot of applicants for that, and it's a great opportunity. If you're in STEM fields, yes, it feels like there's a lot more money in STEM fields than anything else. So here is just a big list of some of the options. The Hertz Fellowship is in any of the STEM fields. I like the Hertz because it asks, one of the things it asks from you is a commitment to help the country in time of need with your particular area of specialty. And they ask for you for that commitment. They never actually like follow up on it. It's not like they're going to get a phone call and says, hey, we need you now. But there's just this general sense that scientific advancement is meant to be used for the good of the US, which I think is an interesting concept. And a good concept, actually. Then the Smart Scholarship, both the Smart Scholarship and the DAAD NDSEG. I call the STEM fellowships the alphabet soup fellowships, I'm not going to lie. Those are both Department of Defense funded scholarships that can cover your entire graduate career in the STEM field. Most of these you have to apply fairly early on, first or second year of grad school, but there's a little bit of flexibility in a couple of them. The NIH F31, F32 grants, those tend to be the MD PhD grants. The NASA Space Grant Fellowships, obviously if your work involves something that NASA cares about. And then the National Physical Science Consortium matches you with corporate sponsors to help you fund your degree in a physical science. And then finally, the NSF GRF, the Graduate Research Fellowship. So those are the ones we probably know the most about in our office. We have some of our winners last year in that picture. And that provides, I think we're up to $138,000 of funding over 3 years that you can use. They changed their eligibility for grad students a couple years ago, and so you can only apply once as a grad student, and it has to be either your first or second year. You cannot have completed more than 12 months of graduate level study to be eligible for that. But if you fit that category, that's a really great one to apply for. So I have not turned over my pages of any of these to make sure that my notes are being followed. So I hope I've covered everything. So that brings me to some of the workshops that our office offers. And so workshops are opportunities for you to come and meet some of the faculty advisors that work with us on national fellowships, get some insight into the application process itself, kind of see if we have a timeline or a process on campus, and actually get some of that insight I was talking about in terms of what is this really like and what does this really entail. So we have a few coming up that might be of interest to you. The Rotary Global Grants, I mentioned the Rotary Grant before, that's the soonest. This prestigious awards for graduate study, I put on there. I don't know that any of you are interested in that necessarily because they would involve graduate degrees not at USC. And I thought it never hurts to throw it out there. The Rhodes, you probably have heard of. The Marshall is a grad degree in the UK. The Mitchell is a one-year master's in Ireland. The Gates Cambridge is any graduate degree at Cambridge. The Schwartzman is a 2-year program in China, and the Knight Hennessy is a new program in Stanford. And then the Soros I had mentioned previously for the new Americans. So we're putting all of those together because they're kind of the cream of the crop type of program. And then Fulbright, told you I'd mention it 8 more times. The Fulbright workshop is March 21st, and that would be a really great chance to sit down and see what that application entails and what our campus process is like, and meet the faculty that help us advise. So I encourage you to do that. And then the final date on here is our intent to apply deadline. So one of the things that helps us in the office is if you already know that there's something that you plan to apply for next year, it would be great if you told us, because then we can follow up with you and we can make sure that we are being as supportive as you can through the process. And so that is actually a link on our website. And we just have that April 6th deadline is not a hard deadline. You can certainly apply afterwards. And it's also not a binding process. You can tell us you intend to apply and then change your mind. That's fine. But it is helpful for us for planning to know. So I'd encourage you to look at that if there's anything that's caught your eye that you're interested in. Our website listed up here, our search engine is info investigate national fellowship opportunities. Took us a really stupid long time to come up with that, but we like it. And that, like I said, it has about 200 different awards on it that might be of interest to you. We also have some external search links on our website that link out, especially for some of the graduate programs. There are some other large institutions in the US that have really good databases for grad students looking for funding. And so we've tried to connect you with those. So I would recommend trying to sort of dig through that. And then once you find something or anything, feel free to come and talk to us. Like I said, there's 4 of us in the office who are National Fellowship Advisors, and we love to talk with grad students. So please do come. Our online system doesn't let you click to make an appointment, but you can just email us, or you can call, or you can stop by in person, and we'd be happy to schedule you. And then I gave you the link of our website. We're always looking for more opportunities to work with grad students, particularly with presidential fellows, but we are, and we like to hear good news too. So even if you didn't work with us and you've won something, we want to know about it, because I think making more visible that culture of fellowship application and success is an important component. And so we would love to support you in that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.